Jones, and I specialize specifically in teaching dogs to feel comfortable when they're home alone. So that is my niche. I am a dog trainer, but I specialize in separation anxiety because I know a lot of dogs struggle with it. So I'm here for you. Can someone just say hi in the chat just so I know that you guys can hear me okay, please? Somebody, please, please. All right. I also have a book coming out in about 3 months, which is really, really, really exciting. And it is about separation anxiety in dogs. There's some case studies in there. There is how like a system, a structured system on how to train your dog to get over separation anxiety, some preventative measures when we have to go and reach for medication and all sorts of other things. But it will give you the steps to do it at home. But of course, if you need more support, one of the things with the book, which I think it's going to be a really valuable book. However, I do feel that there will be particular cases that need extra support. So I'm here for that. But let me just, okay, so one of the first questions I got was from Jan. I did reach back out to her and say, I need some more information. And I asked her a couple of questions. Unfortunately, she didn't respond. So all I have is what she's written here, which is her 8-year-old German Shepherd stresses when she is out for more than 30 minutes. The dog destroys her toys at best, house mats at worst. It is hard with appointments longer than 1 hour. CBD oil from the vet, not CBD oil from the vet, but her dogs did not take to that very well. They got diarrhea. She says one of them passed out with only a few drops. So obviously CBD is not going to be good for her. The thing with any medication, whether it's prescribed or whether it's from just some sort of herbal remedy or natural remedy, is that just like us, it's going to affect your dog differently. So for a good example of this actually is my mum has high blood pressure and she had to have some medication from her doctors. Unfortunately, that medication wasn't suitable for her, so they had to swap it out and put something else in. But it could have worked for somebody else. So it literally depends. So for some dogs, CBD might be the perfect solution, and for others, something else might be more appropriate. So the point I'm making is you kind of have to do trial and error, and you don't know until you try it. That's the hard part. So obviously CBD is not great for Jan's dogs. But there are other alternatives. The thing with any medication, and this is a really important point, is that there aren't any magic pills. It's not going to magically sort out your dog's separation anxiety. And one thing I will say is separation anxiety is a blanket term. It really should be, it's the term that everybody knows, but it really should be separation related distress or separation related behavior, because that takes in more of a broader thing. It's not always based on anxiety. So medication, yes, is trial and error. I would suggest for Jan, again, I didn't get the answers I was hoping for from her. So I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants. Honestly, if the dog is distressed and you have to go for longer than 30 minutes and you know your dog's going to be distressed within that time period, I would consider trying to get a house sitter or a friend to come over and look after them so they're not alone if it's only a small window. Or perhaps try some other medication. The CBD was from your vet. So keep an open dialogue with your vet, because often what we can find out is they might have another thing for you to try. Just remember that any medication goes hand in hand with training. Medication, whether natural or prescribed, facilitates the training. It supports the dog through the training, but there's no magic pill. So the only thing I would say that maybe is, if you want to call it a magic pill, but is something like a situational medication. Just an example of one would be trazodone at high doses and given early enough before you leave, it could literally knock your dog out. But do you want to do that every time you walk out the door, like literally knock your dog out? I don't think that's a very good solution. I would much prefer to do the training and help your dog learn to feel safe when they're alone. And I think that is the key. We don't want to just medicate them up to their eyeballs. We want them to appreciate and realize that being by themselves isn't that scary. Okay, so I'm just going to come in here. Oh, okay. So there are questions. I'm sorry. I can see. Thank you, Cash. See, Facebook is so weird. I've got two Facebook things open here. One of them, it says no comments, but now I'm clicking into the actual Facebook group and there's comments. So annoying. Apologies and thank you. Thank you for replying. Okay, Kia. I haven't got my glasses on. Can you build up time if your dog is not panicking but not relaxing either? So Kia, I would put that in the holding it together category. So they're not comfortable. You can keep pushing, 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 but unfortunately you might get to the point where they go over the edge. So this training that I do is all done under the panic line, so under the threshold at which they can cope. So what if this is the panic line here, this line, and we know that anything over that line is the dog panicking, scared, worrying, etc., etc., etc. That is going to undermine your training. So I'm sure a lot of people watching this or watching the replay have been told to let the dog bark it out. In other words, and especially this is advice often used with puppies as well. And it can work if you've got a solid, robust puppy. But a lot of my clients say, yes, I tried that. It made it 10 times worse. And that is because the dog is over the threshold. And if you think of something really, really scary and you have to face it constantly and you're constantly made to be scared, that is constantly going over threshold. And that's not going to make you feel better about that scary thing. It's going to make you feel worse. I talk about cockroaches a lot because I'm terrified of them. I can't even go near a dead one or a photo of one. I'm terrified. Now, if you locked me in a room filled it full of cockroaches, it's not going to help me get over my fear. It's going to make my fear 10 times worse. So that's what we say when the dog is constantly going over threshold, over that line, they're panicking. So, but what you're saying is your dog isn't over the line, but they're nudging up to it. So, Kia, what we find is if this is the panic line, we're going to start seeing some behaviors before you've got kind of yay, my dog's nice and relaxed. They're lying on the back with their legs in the air. And then you've got, okay, they're just sitting or lying down, gazing out the window. They're still calm. But then you start seeing these other behaviors or body language signs starting to creep in. So it could be something really subtle, and every dog is different. So you have to know your dog specifically. You can't just say, you can't use every dog does this when they're stressed. So it's knowing your dog. And so what we see is that as dogs get more and more stressed, we see some behaviors that maybe the dog is getting more, so it might be something subtle like a lip lick at first or a yawn, but then we might see pacing or whining or crying, and we can just see this escalation of behavior. So to answer your question, I mean, a little bit of frustration, eustress is good stress, distress is bad stress. But it would depend what you are seeing, what your dog is doing. If your dog just licks its lips once, I'm not too worried about that. If your dog yawns once, I'm not too worried about that. And we must look at the context. So the context, of course, is that the dog, maybe if they're yawning, maybe they just woke up or maybe they're tired. So that's really important to know the context. If they're panting, is it because they're hot or have they just been playing or are they feeling stressed? Often what we'll see is a lot of different signs, not just one. So one in isolation, I never really worry too much about as long as they can settle down again. But if we see one and then another and then another and then another, then we're seeing a dog that's creeping up towards that threshold, which we want to avoid. So not knowing here what your dog is doing makes it hard for me to answer, except that if they're just holding it together and that happens consistently, then we do have to be careful about pushing up the time. However, if it's just even one little cry, it would depend what else was going on, whether I would say, oh, we can, I like to veer on the side of cautiousness, because generally rushing slowly, going slower actually gets there quicker. And I know that sounds really counterintuitive, but it actually does get you there quicker. Kia says he's mostly just waiting at the door. Yeah, so I don't mind a dog that waits by the door. It doesn't bother me. Lots of dogs like to hang out by the door or the window. I just need to know what else is going on. So if he's just calmly lying down there and he's just hanging out there and waiting for you to come back, I'm not too worried about that. But if he was standing there and he's statued, frozen there, and he's just standing there really, really stiff and tense, I would suggest that that's not good and he's just holding it together, and I would drop the time back to so he's more comfortable. If he was lying there and maybe he's doing some displacement behaviors like scratching and yawning, and you can just see there's more and more kind of discomfort creeping in, then I would again say that maybe it's just a little bit too much for him. I know it's hard because you want to keep pushing the time, but we also need to make sure he's comfortable as well. Like I said, a little bit, I'm not too worried about, a little bit of discomfort. Not ideal, but I think we can, as I said, we can overlook one little sign, but when we see lots and lots and lots, then we've got a problem. So if anybody has any questions, ask them, start writing. I'm just going to go back. I had another question come in from Russell. Okay, he says, we're doing desensitization at home and are at 3 minutes, which is really good. In order to spend time together without our dog, we leave her at my parents' house. That's great. It's nice to have somebody to rely on to look after your dog while you're working on this training. When we leave her there, she reacts for 15 minutes, clinging when we leave the room, barks when we walk out their front door, but eventually stops. It's hard to do desensitization at my parents' house since they're an hour away. Is leaving her at my parents' negatively impacting the desensitization we are doing at our home? Is there anything we can do to improve her situation when leaving her at my parents'? Really good questions. So firstly, I would not be doing any training or desensitization at your parents' house. Now, the reason for this is you're only at 3 minutes at your own home. So for me, when we're starting our training journey, we are looking at a picture where we're setting the dog up for success. We want the dog to succeed, and we're building up a foundational plan that is rock solid and consistent. So not just a personal best, but a really strong foundational plan. I don't add complications in, which would be your parents, or it could be a different time of day, or it could be more than one person training. It's going to depend on the individual situation. Or it could be a pre-departure cue or leaving cue that triggers the dog. I do not add in complications till my foundational plan is rock solid. And then I start adding in complications in a very structured manner. So I would not be doing any training at your parents' house. I don't see the value in it until you've got some really strong foundations, and 3 minutes for me isn't a strong enough foundation. What you could do at your parents' house, though, because 15 minutes is quite a long time for them to be distressed if you're going out. I don't know how old your parents are, sorry, Russell, but you could ask your parents to try to distract the dog. Is it dogs or dog? No. Oh, dog. To try to get your parents to distract him when you leave. It can be really hard for a dog to watch you go. It's because Oh, my significant person, my primary caregiver, my best person in the world is actually leaving me here. I don't know what kind of relationship your dog has with your parents as well. So I would be working on building up their relationship with your dog. I don't know how often you go there to see them. But if you can build a bond, they'll be more comfortable there with your dog. So that could be playing, it could be treating, it could be training, it could be walking. Also, if you are leaving, I would try to get your parents to distract them. So that could be maybe playing in the backyard, or perhaps if your parents are able to, I would ask them to, can you take my dog for a walk, 5 minute walk down the road while we leave? So your dog's not watching you leave. They're literally going out, having some fun, doing something nice, building a bond and a relationship with your parents. You're leaving, you're not there when they come back, and they won't be thinking about you as much. Now, some dogs will still run around the house and, where are they? Where are they? Where are they? If they've got a really strong bond with your parents, I think that will probably ease a little bit. So hopefully that is helpful. I don't think leaving her there is negatively impacting your desensitization. No, but I would definitely be trying to work on their relationship with your parent, her relationship with your parents. Um, yeah. And a lot of that, I mean, do you mention, it doesn't say how old she is either. So it's helpful to know how old the dog is. If she's a young dog, like a teenager, maybe, or even, under 2 or 3 years old, there could be an element of frustration slash FOMO, lots of energy, don't know where to put it, you're leaving, I want to come with you, fear of missing out. So there could be that element. I don't know because I don't know how old your dog is. So keep working. My suggestion would be to keep working on your desensitization at home. You're at 3 minutes. Congratulations. And you will don't push it, just go nice and steady. And then once you've got some rock solid time and it's consistent, consistency is really important in this training. A one-off is not the same as consistent. It's like an athlete. If an athlete can, wants to jump 6 feet, high jump, they might do it once. They might do it once in a competition or something, but can they do it consistently? And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for consistency. Cool. All right. Well, I have not got any other questions. So is anybody watching this that would like to ask something? Because I'd like to be able to help. So it'd be really cool. While you're doing that, hopefully you're typing something out. And hopefully next week, so I'm hoping to do this a bit more regularly. Hopefully next week we will get some more questions coming through. All right, Kia says, do you make any adjustments in the training if frustration, FOMO might be factors? Not specifically. So the training pretty much looks the same, but if it's based in anxiety, it's probably going to take a little bit longer. With frustration, FOMO, I find that if they're getting adequate exercise and enrichment, so mental stimulation, it can go a lot quicker and a lot more smoothly. I'm big on mental stimulation, brain games for dogs as well. I mean, exercise can sometimes be overstimulating for a dog. And I'm not saying they shouldn't have exercise. Just if you've got a high drive dog, sometimes it can have. You've just got to make sure you do it at the right time for that dog. But brain games. So, and I'm not talking enrichment is not just throwing a ball around in the backyard. That for me is more exercise based. I'm talking about things where they have to use their little brains. And I think that is where the gold is. And also, I've had clients where the dog has got frustration, FOMO, has just really never learned to be by themselves. It's not really anxiety based. It's more they just don't know how to be by themselves for a variety of factors. I mean, I know COVID lockdown certainly played a part. But it's based on frustration slash FOMO, and the days where the dog didn't get the exercise in particular, I'm thinking of one dog in particular, he's actually a case study in the book that's coming out in 3 months. He bombed in his training because he just didn't get his needs met. So I had to advise my client at the time not to train on those days. If he's not going out for a run, he was a very athletic dog as well, then don't do the training. For me, an example of enrichment on a human term, you get those crosswords where you've got the word grids and they give you a number of words and you've got to find them in the grid. They're super easy. They're not really complicated. Then you've got the normal crosswords, kind of complicated, depends on your knowledge. And then you've got the cryptic crosswords, which are pretty much impossible. Well, they are for me. So when we're looking at the dog, we want to give them the crossword that is the one that's going to tire them out. Because if you think on the days maybe you go to work or you've had a really hard day studying for exams or what have you, you're mentally drained and you want to rest and relax. And that's a really good time to train your dog if your dog is in that state of mind. So we need to make sure they're getting enough suitable enrichment. So the enrichment should help them feel tired mentally, but it shouldn't be to the point where it causes so much frustration that they give up. I don't know, has anyone ever had maybe a frozen Kong, given it to their dog and the dog's like, I'm just going to give up because I can't get it out. I can't figure it out. It's too frozen. We do not want the dog to give up. We want the dog to keep at the problem, if you like, the enrichment problem, so that they feel ready to rest and relax. I've got 3 Malinois, and they are, full on working high drive dogs. Sometimes I can't get them out for various reasons, and those days are the days I do enrichment with them, because I find if I can see this, their energy levels getting higher and higher and higher, and I can see there's going to be some naughtiness if I don't do something about it. And so I'll just do some basic find it, and they love it. I put them somewhere outside or what have you, and I just get little bits of kibble, and I feed raw, but I use kibble for this because I don't want raw food all over my carpet. But yeah, just make it super easy at first, show them where it is, find it, putting it in really obvious places for them. And it's very, very soon, if you're teaching this, they understand that find it means there's all goodies scattered around the house and harder, interesting places. I make it gradually harder and harder. So it would be initially along a wall, really easy, but eventually you want to put it under cushions and up on top of things and make it harder. But my dogs, when they do this, they go from this, oh, you can feel the energy, you can feel they're going to start getting naughty, and then they just go, oh, okay, rest now, ready to rest and relax. So when I'm doing separation anxiety training, that's the time I'm looking to train to build my foundation plan, is when the dog is ready to rest and relax. So we're setting the dog up for success. And that means they've had their exercise, they've had their enrichment, they've got a full belly. They're not like waiting to be fed. They're not hungry, because that's going to, unsettle them a little bit. They've obviously toileted. We don't want them to need to go while you're in the middle of training. They're not expecting playtime. So they're not expecting somebody else in the household to come home from work or what have you, kids coming home from school. Dogs can kind of have a fair idea what time it is or what time to expect, somebody to come home. So, and often say a partner might come home and start playing with the dog, and so the dog's going to be G'd up about that. So that's not a great time to train. You wouldn't train when they're expecting a walk or a play or someone to come home. All those things are not, if we want initially just for the foundation plan to be perfect. Zoomy time, you wouldn't want to, that witching hour, some dogs get the zoomies, especially younger ones, would not be trying to train then. Even if your dog's gone to daycare for the day, mostly they should be exhausted when they come home, which would be a great time to train. Some dogs come back a little bit wired and overstimulated. That's not a good time to train. So initially, when we're starting out our training journey, we want the perfect time to train. We're going to set that dog up for success to ensure that they do really well, build up a solid foundational plan, and then we add in complications down the track. Because if you haven't got solid foundations, you don't want to add in the hard stuff. I always start with the easy stuff, get it really solid and consistent is really important, and then we add in the complications down the track. And when I say complications, it could be the tricky pre-departure cues, it could be a change of time of day. So if we've got our foundational plan where the dog is ready to rest and relax, then we're going to create another plan where the dog is perhaps in a more active mindset. Most dogs are pretty keen to get up in the morning, but I've had a couple of clients where they just the dog wants to lie in bed. So great time to train. The dog doesn't want to get up. It's happy, settled in its bed, blah, blah, blah. Great time to train. Most dogs are the opposite. They're ready to get up in the morning. So we would start our foundational plan maybe later in the day when they've had all their fun, they're ready to rest and relax. And then once that's solid and consistent, then we add in another plan of much lower time, which might be active state of mind in the morning. So what I do is all very structured to make sure that the dogs succeed. But if there doesn't appear to be any more questions, so last chance to ask any questions. If anybody is typing, I'm going to give you the opportunity to do that. While I'm doing that, I'm going to put in a link to the waiting list for my book. If anybody wants to sign up for that, is that. And I'm also going to put in a link to my membership in case anybody wants to have a look at that. It's really well priced. It's a monthly subscription plan, cancel at any time, but it's very structured. This program is kind of a do-it-yourself program. There you go. Oops, and you go. There we go. It's a do-it-yourself program with support. So there's a private Facebook group. There's also a community group in the platform. There's onboarding videos, tells you what to look for in the training. And there's an app that gives you all the steps, what you need to do. So there's a couple of courses as well. So there's a mini course on door desensitization, which is where we start, especially if the dog gets anxious before you even walk out the door. And there's an 8-module online course. Yeah, but that's have a look at that if you're interested. But there's also a couple of classes each week so that we can tailor the training. So while it is a do-it-yourself course, and because a lot of people find value in that, and that's why the price point is so low, there's also a couple of classes each week which you can attend if you desire, or not if you don't want to. Which helps helps me to ask you questions in person, live, and tailor the training specifically to your situation. And what I mean by that is a dog that lives in a house, their training might look different to a dog that lives in an apartment, or a dog that's got generalized anxiety compared to a young dog that's just never learned to be by itself. So, or a dog that lives with one person as opposed to a dog that lives with a family. So there's always going to be different situations specific to your dog. And I think that's where the gold is in that program, is because I can tailor, helps me, while it is largely do it yourself, it does, I like to have that conversation. So you say, I'm struggling with this, or when do I add in my pre-departure cues? We have that conversation and we can structure we can structure and tailor the training specifically to you. Okay, so it doesn't look like there's any more questions, but I will be, like I said, I am pretty hopeful that I will be coming back next week to do this. I want to do, like I said, do these more regularly. I know I disappeared for a little while. I've been a bit slack. I've just been so busy with my summits and stuff, and writing the book. That's really taken a lot out of me. It's a big project. So yeah, hopefully we'll see you next week then. And maybe if you've got any questions, I'll put another event in here for next week. Yeah, but otherwise, I shall let you go about your day, evening, night, morning, wherever you are in the world. Thank you.